Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast, episode number 44, Inside the NRA with special guest Kyle Weaver. Big Buck Registry is a virtual museum of hunting stories. We preserve a piece of Americana by interviewing and recording hunters about their hunts and experiences from across the country. And who knows, maybe we'll learn a thing or two along the way that'll help us take our hunt to the next level.
This is Allison Roberts-Oman from Go Girl Cosmetics and Scent Elimination Products.
This is Kyle Weaver with the NRA.
This is Milo Hansen.
This is Zach Doyle with the Rackpacker Outdoors.
This is Lane Benoit, Master Tracker. You're listening to my favorite podcast on iTunes.
Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast. This is Jay Scott, and I'm here with my good friend and field correspondent from Ohio, Dusty Phillips. Dusty, how are you, man?
I'm awesome. Enjoying somewhat warmer weather.
Okay.
And looking forward to who we have on this evening.
One of the best shows we'll do.
Absolutely. We're going to be joined tonight with Kyle Weaver from the NRA. Kyle is the executive director of general operations for the NRA, and we're going to find out what all the NRA has going on.
Yes. And we're going to ask some good, deep questions of Kyle, and Kyle's going to answer them for us.
Absolutely. We want to get into the NRA more than just the legislative side of what the NRA does. We want to know what else is going on with the NRA.
There is, if you just talk to somebody that doesn't know about the NRA, they're basically just going to say, oh, those are those fanatic gun rights people.
And that's not the case.
It's not the case at all.
At all.
It's the exact opposite.
The NRA and who's behind them is, husbands, wives, families, just like me and you.
Yep.
Just like you and I, the hunters that we have listening, they're no different than you.
Mm-hmm.
They see what you see. They're looking at things no different. You're looking at things.
Yep.
And the NRA is actually branching out to get more involved with the hunters and more involved with the family members. And that's what we want you to see from this, is that NRA is not just for Second Amendment. They're also for your family. They're for your moms, dads, cousins, uncles, brothers, sisters, kids, wives. They're for the family.
Right. It is definitely a organization based around the right to own and bear arms. But there is so much more to the NRA than that.
Absolutely. And that's where we want to go and talk with Kyle and dig up some of that is often overlooked.
Yes, very, very often overlooked. And we wanted to bring it to the forefront so that you can learn more about what the NRA is all about and the great things that they have going on currently and the things they're working on that'll be out in the next 12 months.
Absolutely. And we encourage everyone to become an NRA member and take advantage of the benefits and the activities and the gun safety courses and everything that the NRA offers for you as a member. It's phenomenal.
Yes. And we will have some information about how to become a member during the show that Kyle will tell us about. But I've got a special 800 number for you at the end as well. Let's get Kyle on the phone.
Yeah. Enjoy the show. It's going to be awesome.
Cool. Kyle, welcome to the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast.
Hey, guys. It's great to talk to you again.
Well,
welcome aboard.
Yeah, welcome aboard. We're psyched to see you again. Of course, the first time we saw you was in the media room at the Great American Outdoors Show. And, man, what a great show that was. But we love that little media room in the back because we got to have some pretty intimate conversations with some very cool people.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that we put those rooms together and everything we do pretty much just to give you guys space to sit down and relax and do some work. But it kind of ends up being I think a pretty good asset for finding talent and, meeting unique people that are involved in what we do. It's kind of a getaway for us. So it ends up being more than just a getaway for you guys too.
Right. I'm not surprised they ended up talking to Dusty because Dusty is my talker. I send him out to go talk to people.
He says I'm the bloodhound.
He is the bloodhound.
You got to have those people to be successful.
You're
Absolutely.
right. He couldn't have said it better, Jay. I think Kyle said something there that that'll stick with me for a while. You got to have those kind of people. You know, I'm very fortunate to be able to have a conversation with pretty much anybody that walks in front of me, and I like to keep it that way. I like to be a people person. I like to get to know somebody, and if it wasn't for the press room and the bloodhound, as Jay calls me, that we might not have ran into Kyle Weaver, and very blessed and fortunate that we did.
Yep, I do believe Dusty.
Yeah, it worked out great. I don't remember what conversation I was having there, but I saw you guys there, and you overheard something we were saying, and it turned into hopefully what seems like to be a pretty good relationship.
All I remember is Dusty kept talking to me. I was on the couch talking to my wife.
That's
right. You were over there on the phone.
I was on the phone, and Dusty kept saying, "Hey, over here," and I was like, "One more minute." And you're like, "Dude, over here. I have somebody very important that we have to talk to."
And finally, I ended up handing him your card, Kyle, and that right there sparked his interest real quickly.
I ended the conversation with my wife very quickly after I got the card.
Yeah,
no, I'm never more important than anybody's wife, so don't do that.
I know.
Yeah, we agree to that, but it was somebody that I wanted the Jay to, I know you was busy there. And, you had your wife with you, and, very nice. Your wife's a great woman and seemed to be real personable and enjoy talking with her also. But, Jay, he knew when I brought the card over and said, "Hey, you got to come over here and get in this conversation with me," that, we was talking to somebody that's, higher up in the NRA and we need to talk with you.
Yep. And actually, on the way down there, Dusty was driving in from Ohio and I was driving down from New Hampshire, and we had been calling each other along the way with ideas. And one of the people that I said we really need to talk to is the person that is behind the whole organization of the Great American Outdoor Show. And lo and behold, there you are in front of us. It was great.
It worked out. Yeah. That whole thing with the Great American kind of was an interesting deal that I always believe in luck. I've been someone who's been lucky a lot, but in my role at NRA, I'm the executive director of general operations. So, I oversee basically everything except the legislative stuff that Chris runs and some of our high-end donor stuff that Wayne does, but everything else pretty much falls on my plate. And we had been doing a little small outdoor show ourselves, trying to figure out a way to get out and reach really hunters and shooters and outdoorsmen a little better than just the political message.
Right.
And, when this whole outdoor thing went down up there with what used to be the old Eastern Outdoor Show, what it really showed is how if you pin outdoorsmen of any type, I don't care if it's camping, hunting, backpacking, fishing, archery, black powder, it doesn't matter. It shows how they join together. And that's exactly what happened up there with that show. And when they took the position they did on not displaying modern, sporting arms, which everyone wants to call an assault weapon, which is no more than just a semi-auto rifle. First people that backed out was the boat guy, And
right.
Once he went and he started taking his position, then the archery guys went and it went on down the line. Long story short is it didn't take too long, the show was canceled.
Right.
And when that happened, I went to Wayne. Wayne LaPierre's my direct boss. I went to Wayne. I said, here's an opportunity, and it's nothing about making money. This is a great thing for NRA. It's a great thing for us to do for hunters and outdoorsmen. This show has a 50+ year history. We are the right people to save this show and keep it right where it is and make it better than it ever was. And actually, Wayne kind of laughed at me and said, "Well, if you think you can do it, do it." And he didn't think I could pull it off.
Gotcha.
And because we were coming out of the Sandy Hook, tragedy and all this stuff, and
right.
It never really crossed my mind because for Harrisburg, this was a tragedy. For the city of Harrisburg, this was an $80 million loss for that area. And we went up there, started working with those guys, and there again got lucky enough that they saw the same thing we saw, that we were the right group. And we started out about 4 or 5 months behind the timeline we should have been on, but we pulled it off. And you guys were there, and you heard the feedback from everybody that in the history of the show, it was the greatest show it ever was. But that was more, I think, because my point of view of taking that show over, we went in with a couple aspects that we wanted to change about it. And first and foremost was bring the prices down a little bit. Not gouge everybody for every dollar and every penny you could to come into the show.
Right.
And that goes for the vendors that were displaying there. The second thing was clean the show up a little bit and get everybody in there, be someone who's related to the outdoors. So bring that quality of that show up and bring some of the major manufacturers in that had never been there and those type of things. And then the last thing was to bring more activities to the town. And you saw that we brought in NRA Country and pulled off a concert. And we did some foundation fundraising banquets throughout the facility. And we did a lot of evening events at some of the hotels and expanded that. And
yeah.
lucky enough, I was up there 2 weeks ago and received an award from the city for our show, and they cranked out some numbers. And I believe, if I remember right, our show pushed hotel nights 30% more than it had ever been, and we pushed the other revenue things that they get, ticket sales, parking, things like that the city and state gets, was pushed like another 35%. And attendance ended up being over 30% larger than it ever was. So all in all, it was just a tremendous show. But the real thing for us is I think you had 200,000 plus outdoorsmen and women and children come through there that start to see NRA for a little more than just the political arm we are.
Definitely. It was a super classy show, and it had a very family feel to it, and it couldn't be ignored. I felt comfortable, and I'm not usually comfortable in a crowd, but you're talking about hundreds of thousands of people, and I thought it was the best show I had ever been to anywhere in the country.
Oh, hands down.
My favorite thing is to watch the whole families, the father, the mother, the little girl, the little boy, they all walk in, they all got all their camo on. That was the coolest thing.
Right.
Where do you go to shows and you say, we're going to the outdoor show, everybody get dressed,
right,
and everybody goes and puts their camo on.
That's awesome.
It was fantastic.
Tell us a little bit about, something that big, Kyle. It's often thought that it would take you 100, 150 people to put a show like that on. And I know different that's not the case. Tell us how many people on your committee for the Harrisburg show that put that show together for the NRA in Harrisburg.
Yeah, we have a division called Shows and Exhibits that has a full-time staff of around 12, 13 people that work on shows. And we have 3 full-time guys that live in Harrisburg, and that's it. And from there,
wow,
it's volunteers and a mix. We got a mix of a lot of other staff who mix in and run little parts, but full-time people. You're looking really full-time, about 5 people working on the show full-time. Yeah,
walking into that show, I felt like there was 10,000 people put that together and just took it to a level like no other. I mean, I'd have thought you'd had a professional organization come in there and set that show up, and which you did, but it wasn't a large organization. It was in-house for you guys to be able to put that together, and man, awesome job to you and your crew there. It was smooth. You did the right things to make the aisles more comfortable for everybody to walk down. I didn't feel like I was being crowded.
Nope.
It was phenomenal.
Yeah, a couple of things that in our approach there is we never went in with the approach to see how much money we could make. We went in the approach to see how good a show we could put on. And we had been an exhibitor at that show for 20 years ourselves plus. So we always kind of knew how to do it, and we run a lot of shows. But the 2 other things that are big there, one is NRA has the greatest volunteers that exist in the world in any organization. And so we have tons of volunteers who come up and volunteer to help run stuff and manage a lot of the parts of the show. And we've got a great partner in Harrisburg now, and that was the other big thing we really worked on. The local police department with security and parking and running the show hall itself and trusting us that we knew what we were doing. Because there was a lot of fears, and I think you guys were there the whole time, so you saw the 2 Saturdays where you kind of got gridlock and we had to have functions and move people around. But
that was handled very well, by the way.
Yeah, our security guys, they know what they're doing. And in the end, I'll tell you, I've been NRA over 19 years now, and there's not a better place to work, for one, and there's not a more dedicated staff to their job and the cause of what we do than the staff we have. And we appreciate you guys seeing that and all the feedback we got from all the attendees.
Gotcha. Kyle, when I got back from the Great American Outdoor Show, one of the things I did is I put your card on my mixer board in my podcast room, and it's been there, and I look at it every single time I do a show. So I've always got NRA kind of in the back of my head. I got to ask you, though, on a personal level, what does the R stand for?
Exactly. Rifle.
Rifle Kyle Weaver. Excellent. I mean,
no, I'm just kidding with you. It stands for Robert.
I like rifle better. I think that's great. Yeah. No, that's cool.
It would be a better story, right?
It would be. Yeah. I think you should change your first name to Rifle. I think that's fantastic.
Rifle, right? Yeah. Hey, I'm one of those guys. My mom did that to me and always called me by my middle name. And at work,
yep.
The reason I started doing that was one time we had some kind of function, and it was like an award ceremony or something, and years of service. I don't know what it was, but the guy that was doing it called my name, and he called Bobby Weaver. thinking Robert Short Bobby.
Sure.
I never responded. I left. I just thought, well, I guess I'm not getting an award. I never even responded to the word. So I had to start throwing in so people would actually know who I was.
That's fantastic.
I was sitting here, and I actually got your card on a window ledge right here in my podcast studio. And I was like, man, that's the coolest card ever. If that stands for Rifle Kyle Weaver.
That is fantastic. The other thing I have sitting next to the card is my membership that I renewed at the Great American Outdoor Show for the NRA. The envelope sits there as well. So always there, ready to go.
You know, we did over $270,000 worth of memberships up there, which that's a tremendous number for us in a show like that, especially in a show where you got a very high percentage of members already.
Right.
So it was just,
yeah, that's neat.
We had a wrap-up meeting, and I was telling Wayne in a meeting, I said, very seldom do you ever do something, especially the first time, and look back and say, I wouldn't change a thing.
Right.
And that's kind of how we came out of there.
That is so true. And I wouldn't change a thing just from my experience from my side.
I was a little skeptical going in. I'm going to admit to this. And I was thinking that walking in the door to the Great American Outdoor Show in Harrisburg, I was going to run into, hey, get an NRA membership. Hey, let's get a membership. Kyle, you guys did awesome with that. Nobody was ever pressured into getting an NRA membership. That was unique. The NRA was not even in your way when you walked in the door, and I like that.
Yeah, and if you look at it, NRA is not even the title of the show.
Right.
It's called the Great American Outdoor Show.
Fantastic.
It's not the NRA's Great American Outdoor Show. It's actually Great American Outdoor Show, brought to you by the Outdoor Channel. Presented by the Outdoor Channel.
Right.
And we did do that. There's enough there that people want to find us. We're there. We don't need to throw it in your face. And over a year, we expect to be here for my career with the NRA for sure. Is people will get the message. We'll get the new message, the additional message of all these programs and all these other things we do. It'll come through if they want it. But in the end, even if they don't, as long as they're in the outdoors, they're part of the family, and that's all that matters.
Right. That's a great message. Kyle, where are you from originally?
I'm from Southern Virginia. I grew up right on the border of Virginia and North Carolina. Little town that ended up living in toward the end. It's actually called Virgilina.
Oh, okay.
You throw a rock into North Carolina, basically.
Nice. Excellent. How did you?
When I grew up, I lived with my grandparents most of my life, and I grew up, I tell people all the time, I grew up in the Depression, because that's the way we lived, and that's the way they raised me.
Right.
But we hunted, we fished, we camped, we lived in the outdoors, and my grandfather was my hero and taught me everything I know about being a man and the outdoors and how important it is. And, that's what we did. It was just, and one of the things I preach and we do, that's the lifestyle. That's the culture. And that's what it is. It's a lifestyle that I love and treasure, and I want to pass down and keep alive for cultures for generations to come. And that's what drew me into staying at the NRA as long as I have.
Gotcha. How did you get involved in NRA in the first place?
I mentioned being lucky. That's really what it is. When I finished in college, I played baseball in college, a pretty good athlete, and made the decision just to kind of end that and not try the pro route, and moved up here to Northern Virginia, because where we live down here, it's kind of the best place to work. And I worked in the banking industry for a little while, and I really missed being part of a team. It really bothered me. And honestly, one day I was looking in the paper, because that's what you did back then, and I saw an ad for the National Rifle Association for a job, and I went, you can work there? It just never clicked me that you can get a job there. I don't think I really even knew the NRA was in Northern, in this area. I didn't really comprehend all that. As a kid, we were members here and there, but didn't put it all together. Applied for a job in the financial area, and went in and got lucky enough to be hired. And, that family and that home and that team environment it drew me right in, along with all the other great stuff we do.
Gotcha. And did you work your way up through the ranks to become the executive director?
I did. I started as a financial coordinator, which is basically as entry level as it gets, and always being a very competitive, kind of driving person. I worked hard, and, I was, again, lucky enough. I started out in the greatest program in the history of NRA, which is Friends of NRA, and that's our fundraising banquet arm that, raises money, and we grant all that money back out for the shooting sports. I started there in the infancy of that program, and basically worked with a great team and built it to we raised $63 million last year for the shooting sports out of that program with over 1,100 banquets. And just my success there, got to have a relationship with Wayne and built a trust, and got lucky enough that after 17 years down there, Wayne appointed me to executive director of GO. And, like I said, I'm a lucky guy.
That sounds like luck, but also a good skill set. You don't just get to where you are pure by luck. I mean, you definitely have some skills, and that's great.
Well, the one thing my grandfather made me do is work hard. I might not be the brightest guy in the world, but I always was taught I can work along with anybody as hard as anybody else wants to work. And
Right.
I tell a lot of kids who come work for me now, I said, you can't put a value on hard work.
That's right. That's something you learn from a very early age. Let's talk about the NRA Outdoors some more. What is that program all about? How did it get designed?
We're actually just redoing that program. The NRA Outdoors was a license, kind of a brand that we started, and didn't really have a home for it or even a structure for it. It was just a brand, getting the outdoors, and started selling a few things here and there, some hats and all that. And about 3 or 4 years ago, we had a gentleman named Greg Ray, who a lot of people know out in the hunting industry. He's worked in the hunting destination programs and stuff for a long time. We licensed with him, and he built it to a very successful license of working mostly with our members to book their hunting and outdoor and fishing destinations through us. NRA brand is a trusted brand. Our members trust, the NRA. They trust. We have a higher rating than the president by far, than Congress by far, the Senate by far, you name it. People trust the NRA. And so when we develop programs like this, we get that same trust. And he did really well with it, but kind of get you guys a secret out there is that we just brought that entire structure in-house. And the NRA Outdoors is actually becoming a division and a department of NRA with the goal of being the number one outreach tool to hunters for us. And beyond just, destinations of hunting, we're going to have long-range hunting shooting schools going. We're mixing in some of our hunter ed stuff with it. We're actually mixing the entire organization into this as an outreach to outdoorsmen stuff so they can see what's going on. So you're going to see that really start expanding here throughout the next 12, 16 months.
Gotcha. Now, is there somebody that's in charge of the NRA Outdoors as we speak?
Well, kind of. Greg Ray was the outside guy that was. But as we brought it in-house, we were treating it like the rest of our brands. So if you looked at Life of Duty or Friends of NRA or NRA Country, NRA Sports, NRA Outdoors is there with a little bit of a caveat that it does have some structure under it. But we actually hired Greg Ray himself, the licensee that was running it. We brought him and all his staff in along with it because they've done such a great job with it and doing it. So, mainly what we've done is we've thrown the NRA resource behind that brand now. And I'm excited. That's one of the things in all my years at NRA, especially the last couple of years, I've focused on is how do we connect with hunters? What do we do? What is the process? And this program is proving to be one that is starting to get some traction. And so we're going to be doing a lot of neat things with it, hopefully.
Excellent. We'll be staying tuned for all that stuff. That sounds very, very interesting and exactly the kind of stuff that our audience, our community over here at Chubby Tines Outdoors and Big Buck Registry want to hear. That's exactly the kind of stuff we want to hear from the NRA. Now let's talk a little bit about the annual meeting coming up.
Yeah, we're going to be in Indianapolis starting, it officially kicks off next Thursday, but a lot of us will go in town here now and set up. And Indy looks like it's just going to be a tremendous town for us. It's a great location, great downtown city, great support. I don't know that we'll do the numbers we did in Houston last year because that broke every record we ever did. But the way things are tracking right now, we're going to be 75,000 plus people through there. And, the activities there expand every year. It really kicks off Thursday night with our annual NRA Foundation fundraiser. And we're looking at 2,000 people at that fundraiser with all kinds of games and stuff for sale and just a big fundraiser. It'll probably raise $500,000 that night for the shooting sports.
It's awesome.
And then the next morning, the exhibit hall opens up. And I believe this is the largest exhibit hall in the history of the show. And we're looking at, I forgot what the number is. I believe it's close to 700 vendors. And it really, when you walk through there, you feel like you're at a mini SHOT Show. And
that's awesome.
Our members just come to love that part. So that's the real draw, of course, is that exhibit hall. But as this thing has grown, we've grown into some great things. Friday afternoon is the leadership forum, and that's where Chris Cox, our executive director of ILA legislative arm, he has just an array of speakers that will knock your socks off. I haven't seen all the list yet, but, historically Sarah Palin to Bobby Jindal to Newt Gingrich to you name it down the line are there. And we've got that same kind of lineup coming up. And that's a great thing for our vendors. And then, for our attendees. And then later Friday afternoon, there's a big fundraiser for ILA out at the Indianapolis Speedway, which is kind of a neat structure out there. And you can actually, some of our high-end VIP guys get to take a lap around the track and things like that. And then there's a great fundraiser that night. And then later that night, we have NRA Country, and I think Joe Nichols is our concert this year. And then we're just getting started. And then Saturday is the real big day. We do our members meeting with our members and kind of a mini little structure that we have to do for some of our bylaw stuff. But it's a great pump up, great speakers, Wayne and Chris and all of us down the line and presentations and so forth. And then the exhibit hall is just like what you see at the Great American. It's elbow to elbow, can't hardly move, and every gun manufacturer's there. Every bullet maker's there, every camo guy's there, you name it. It's a great deal. And then that night we really knock it off with our Saturday extravaganza. We call it Celebration of American Values. And this year we have a great lineup. Ollie North is kicking it off for us. Sarah Palin is doing some speed stuff for us. Sarah Evans is doing a concert for us, and Alabama's closing the night for us.
God, that's insane. What a lineup.
Pretty good lineup. We're expecting between 10 and 12,000 people there that night. So, and then you got Sunday to finish your time out in the exhibit hall. So it's a busy week, but, it's one of those things that if you want to know where gun owners stand in this country and what NRA members think of NRA, you can read what you read in the paper. You can come to Indy and you can see it, and you'll see it's pretty much opposite of what you're going to hear on TV and read in the paper.
Right.
And it's a long, hard week, but I look forward to it every year. It's like seeing your family again, no matter what town we go to. And
yeah. It's like a holiday almost.
Well, you know what it is? Most people, it's their vacation. I mean, I can remember my first annual meeting that I went to as a staff member, I believe it was in 98 back at Philadelphia. And it was one of the first where it really took off. And this show is twice what that was, maybe even more than twice. And people now, most people will show up on Wednesday and won't go home till Monday. So it's, and if you draw a 300-mile radius around Indianapolis, we have over 500,000 members. So it's, a lot of people can drive in and take part of it and go home. And it's free for all NRA members to get into. We don't charge to get in the show.
Oh, no kidding. And what's the date on that again? That's April 25th? Is that when it starts?
Let's see. I believe the 25th is the first official day that the exhibit hall opens, with Thursday night kind of being that kickoff night and then it runs through the 27th.
Gotcha.
25th to the 27th.
25th, 27th, and that's in Indianapolis. Yeah. That is beautiful.
And it's, if anybody who's ever been and had a hard time, I think they'll find this city, dealing with the city we're looking at, there's 25 plus hotels right downtown, and it makes it so much easier when you get crowds the size we have for people getting in and out of the city doing things. So I think it's just going to end up being a town that we definitely revisit again.
It sounds like you've got it all set up. If it's anything like the Great American Outdoor Show, then it's going to be an amazing event.
Oh, it should be fun.
And that's kind of where we cut our teeth for the Great American Outdoor Show. The hardest thing about the NRA annual meeting is we move it every year.
Right.
So we go into a new setup every year, whole different deal. So going to Harrisburg and getting to do the same thing over and over and over, that's easy.
Right.
Well, what's amazing is you go from Harrisburg and then get into Indy. That's a lot going on.
Yeah, and it's the same staff, the same people I talked about that did that one. They all just put on a different hat and transition right into the annual meetings. And
that's awesome.
When from February to April and to May, June, I think they can take a day off and relax a little bit.
Right on.
Give them a couple days off, sure.
Yeah, that's right. At least one.
At least one.
Yeah, right. Let's get in a little bit what the NRA and conservation. Let's cover what the NRA's got going on out there in the field.
It's kind of the best kept secret in the world in the industry, which is a bad thing for us. But we have so many things that are toward conservation and hunting and all that stuff. And from a legislative side, we don't really talk about it very much. But we're in every state all the time fighting for keeping lands, keeping access to those lands. Trying to get right to hunt into state constitutions. Working on Sunday hunting that we finally got passed in Virginia. We're working on North Carolina, other places like that. So from a legislative standpoint, we're always working on stuff like that day and night. We work hard with the feds on keeping, especially the federal lands. we do a tremendous amount of work of keeping ranges open and keeping those going. But beyond that, we may not be out front on everything that people see, because sometimes that's not the first place to be. A lot of times when it comes to some of the conservation and wildlife things, it's better for us to be behind pushing. And that's what we do. But we work with every group, SCI, Ducks Unlimited, every whitetail group there is out there. One thing we all have in common is keeping lands and keeping animals and conservation available. And we do a lot of funding through grants and projects of that type. We've really worked hard the last 2 years to reestablish our relationships with all the state wildlife agencies. I have a position that I created, and that's all they do. And in the last 2 years, he's been in every state wildlife director's, either in their office or met with them at a show somewhere along the way and had a conversation. So we've developed strong relationships with them. And, most people don't know the NRA wrote hunter education.
Is that right?
We made a mistake many years ago, and we let other people have it. I wish we still had it.
Right.
But we wrote and designed that, and most people don't know that. And
yeah,
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. That's awesome.
And we still have a big hand in it. We work with those guys. We work with international hunter education people, and we still run a youth hunter education challenge with kids, and we fund all that stuff. And it's pretty endless. We do a tremendous, I don't know what the number is, but it's somewhere in several millions of dollars of just wildlife projects and grants that we've made. One of the negatives, I think, sometimes we do the NRA is we try to do everything, and a lot of times the best thing we can do is promote and support our partners that are also doing it. So we're doing a lot more of that as well. But we're going to continue to do a better job too of letting people understand that, some of the stuff I talk about a lot here lately is I don't care if you're a hunter, a shooter, a bow hunter, a fisherman, woman, child, man. There's a home for you at NRA. There's a program for you. There's something we have for you, and we support what you do. And that's something we're focusing on trying to get more out there.
That brings the whole family into the picture with the NRA, and that's something I know that's overlooked very often with the NRA behind something that not only, as far as legislation, but on a family note, the NRA is definitely involved with everything that has a association with family activities. And I think that's overlooked way more often than it should be with the NRA.
It is, what we're up against here is a cultural battle. The current administration doesn't like the culture the three of us like to live, which is I want to go outside and I want to do what I want to do. I want to hunt. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I don't break laws. I follow game laws. I pay my taxes, do everything the way I should. And if I want to go sit in a tree stand for 8 hours all day and sleep, I should be allowed to. Right. And if I want to carry a .223 or a .308 AR, I'm not hurting anybody. That's our culture that these people don't like. Right. They're trying to take away. And, NRA, that whole family, that culture, that ability to pass this down generation to generation, the ability for me or you or to own our grandfather's gun and pass that grandfather's gun down to our grandkids, we want to be able to do that.
Right.
And, the structure we're in right now doesn't want to be able to do that. And so it's a cultural battle. And in the end, it doesn't matter what kind of hunter or outdoors person you are, we got to stick together in this fight to protect our culture. No matter what state you live in or where you hunt or how often you do it. And it's important to us. And we understand that. We always have. And it is about the family and the focus.
I just, often overlooked. That's something that, that's why we're here today talking with you, that we need to hear that, and our listeners need to understand what all the NRA is involved with, obviously conservation. What else do you have in the workings, Kyle, that may be something in the future we might see from the NRA?
Well, what the biggest change I think people are going to see on a real broad base is that the last 20 years, we have been in a fight. It's been about people wanting to take our guns away. And through the help of all gun owners out there getting involved, we've won. And then we're going to continue to win. We're going to continue to stand and fight and win this battle. But outside of that, it's time that we start this other additional message so people understand. Most people don't know 8% of our budget goes toward lobbying.
Wow.
So there's a lot of money left, and all that money goes into programs and promotion and marketing of our this culture and this lifestyle and protecting it. On my side, we have 10 divisions. We have a law enforcement division. We have a museum. We have competitive shooting, education and training, field operations, on down the line. And all of these divisions have multiple programs that connect somewhere to just about everybody who owns a gun somehow, some way. We produce 100,000 instructors out there that we teach to teach people how to properly and safely own a gun and hunt and shoot and carry, conceal, whatever it may be. And some of the new stuff we're focusing on, one of the biggest things that we're seeing right now with Bloomberg is this huge fight against us, and he's really focused on child safety and gun control. And the only group in the country, the only group that's doing anything for a safety program related to firearms is NRA. Everybody else talks about how bad it is and that, we need to take all the guns away, but no one's doing anything to educate a kid on what to do.
Right.
And that's what our Eddie Eagle program does, and it's been around for over 20 years now. And, we talk about it that if you have kids, you teach your kid, stay away from a hot stove. Don't grab a hot boiling water and pull yourself. Don't touch a hot fireplace. We teach them stay away from drugs. We're teaching them about, sex education. That's our job as adults to teach our children this. But we want to teach them what to do if they come upon a gun. Why not?
Right.
So that's what we do. And what we've done with Eddie Eagle that is coming out, it's being beta tested, and most people don't know anything about this yet either. But you're going to see Eddie come out in a web, an iPad, iPhone, tablet formats now, which is how kids learn. Very interactive, very much like a Pixar type film movie type stuff, where we can now reach millions more kids than what we're reaching now and make it free to anybody.
That's awesome.
NRA's name's not on it. Anybody can go on any of the formats, Android, computer, iPhone, doesn't matter. Download Eddie Eagle and sit down and teach your kids about firearms safety.
Right.
That's huge.
That is huge.
It is. And it's a multi-million-dollar investment NRA is making into that. It's not cheap to do stuff like this, but
right.
There again, we're not in it. It's not about money for us. This is about this safety and this culture and doing what we were founded on. Most people don't realize how NRA was founded. After the Civil War, NRA was founded because a bunch of generals got together and said, you know what? If we were ever in a real battle, we're in trouble. And I don't mean to be, north-south about this, but that's the way it worked out. The North didn't know how to shoot. If they didn't know how to shoot, the war would have lasted a day. Our marksmanship was terrible. Right. So they said, we got to get together and create something and teach our people how to shoot if we ever got in this situation again. And that's how the NRA was started. And they got together and called it National Rifle Association of America, and we founded it in New York. It was all about marksmanship and education and training. And that's where we started. We still are the leader today in it.
Right.
But we've really expanded beyond that, of course, and into the culture and being the leader, of course, in protecting our safety and all that stuff. But we've never gotten away from our core. We are the standard in that training and safety.
Right. The Southern troops were extremely well trained and very good shooters, and it was only because the North was so big that they eventually, I think, had their that one shot at Gettysburg. And
yeah, I heard a guy say this saying the other day. He said, the way they equated it was it took 3 of the North to be as good as one of the South. Mm-hmm. The problem was there was 5 to 1.
That's right. That's exactly right.
That's really what it was.
Right. The Southern armies did so much damage with so few people.
Yeah.
Compared to the North, it's mind-boggling, and there was just.
And that really is what, if you go back and look at some of the history, that's what brought NRA about. That's right. What it came out of the Civil War, and that exact issue that if we ever had to protect our country, and back then, militia, what the militia term was of men coming out of the farms like they did then and fought.
Right.
We weren't prepared to have another Revolutionary War or something like that. We wouldn't be prepared, and that's where it started.
Right.
And like I said, we still do that today. We still are the leader in teaching people how to safely own a firearm. Right. And be a better marksman in the field or in competition, whatever it may be.
Now, knowing that the NRA was basically founded out of some generals getting together after the Civil War, when did the anti-gun activists start raising their voice about this stuff?
It really started in 1968.
Okay.
There was
that makes sense.
There in Lyndon Johnson, there was a big move, and it was massive gun legislation passed. And it took us, and even Richard Nixon came in and even furthered it a little more with some stuff, almost getting into confiscation. And that's where the NRA really got involved and really had to get after it. And really since, those 70s, through the 80s, through the Reagan era and all that, we didn't hit that hard. But when we came out of the Reagan era and came into the Clinton era and the assault weapon bans and all that, it just ramped right back up. And, that was, but that was kind of, the whole culture changed during the Vietnam War. Everything changed in this country, and that's where that real push against taking guns away from individuals' rights to own it started.
Gotcha. Now, my son and I, in some of the most precious moments I've ever had with my son, are shooting the BB gun in my backyard. We spent a lot of time in the backyard shooting BB guns, and for the first time ever, he shot a 20 gauge. He's only 6 years old, but I actually had the shotgun out and we tried it for the first time. And there's a special moment between father and son when you're teaching your children how to safely use a firearm.
And it works both ways. Me being a father of three girls, it's the same one.
Yep.
It's the same for me that it was for you, Jay. Mine started out with a air rifle also. Not quite to the 20 gauge at 5, but,
Well, my son's pretty rugged 6-year-old, so that's,
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yep. He shot it.
We do a lot of things, and try to introduce kids and there's nothing like that lighting up of their face.
Yep.
When they accomplish something like that. And, that's one of the greatest things I think about shooting is the discipline and just a courteousness that comes out of it, of kids, what they learn. In all my travels and talking, especially when I get around kids that shoot competitively and travel and shoot in teams, everybody you talk to will always tell you that they get high school, you name the athletics through these hotels, and they'll always tell you that the shooting kids that come through the most polite, most disciplined, put together children they ever see.
Yep.
And that just kind of goes right along with, it needs to be taught. There is a discipline. You can't be goofy in this thing. This is a serious deal, a lot of accountability.
Absolutely.
But there's also a lot of reward in it.
Yep. And I knew that I was on the right track because he was taking it seriously. And I, there's always this moment of a little panic because the power you're putting in your 6-year-old's hand.
Yeah.
Even though you're there, but it is a little unnerving. But then to see that kick went into his shoulder and it startled him and he felt that power. And I think that power is a very important thing to understand because there's a lot of power in your hands at that moment. And he'll remember that forevermore. And then he got a little weepy, that hurt a little bit more than I really wanted it to. Mm-hmm. And we picked up and I said, all right, let's go inside. We'll shoot another day. And about 20 minutes later, he goes, Dad, let's go shoot it again. I was like, yes, this is a win.
And that same accountability and everything that is taught then is the same thing we teach through everything. Being an ethical, respectable gun owner is what it's all about. What we fight for is the law-abiding gun owner.
Exactly.
We don't fight for criminals who own guns. We fight for them to be prosecuted, put them in jail, and stop that stuff that's going on there. The prosecution's at an all-time low. But it's all about law-abiding people, and that's who we are, and we ought to be able to enjoy it. Shooting is a number one sport in the country. If you take all the other sports together and add them up, it still doesn't equate to the number of people who participate in the shooting, hunting, and outdoor sports.
I can't imagine a world where I would not have that ability to take my son in the backyard to teach him how to shoot. It's a crime in itself if that ever came to be, and that's why the NRA is so important.
Yeah. What it really comes down is living in a world where you don't even have the choice to do it.
Exactly.
I tell people all the time, if you don't want to own a gun or you don't believe in that, that's fine. I'm not thinking everybody should, because if you don't think you should, you shouldn't. But to take my right away to do something as a law-abiding person, that's where the problem starts. And, it's in our DNA. It's how this country was founded. We fought for our freedom. We still fight for our freedom every day, and people forget about that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how it's a different culture here. We have a different DNA than a lot of other countries. And it would be a shame to see something like that taken away from our kids. And you talk about yours. My oldest daughter, the first time I took her shooting, had a little 22 chipmunk rifle, still have it, those little small ones, perfect size for a kid. Was back home, and my cousin was out at his farm there, and he had been fishing or something. He had some old, I don't know if it was pop or probably beer, knowing him. It was laying there that was old, that had been fishing and wasn't no good anymore. And I took those cans of beer and I shook them up and put them down there for her and gave her the rifle and had them stacked for her. Pretty much she's going to hit one somewhere. And the first shot she hit really low, was expecting recoil and all that. The second shot she hit that, and those cans exploded, went everywhere. And she was hooked. She was absolutely hooked.
It don't get no better.
No, nothing like an interactive target like that.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And if it wasn't for the NRA, that moment might not have been possible.
Yeah. There's places now, if you lived in certain states around here, you wouldn't be able to go out on your farm and do that.
Right.
Exactly.
That's a shame. There are places now you can't do that.
And that's a real shame. That's just completely un-American.
Especially if you want to shoot a 22 rifle because you can't get any ammo still.
Right. Yeah, the shelves are empty. I go into every Walmart and there's nothing.
So
it's unbelievable.
People ask me about that one all the time, and I just say, you got me. I don't have an answer. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. I don't know. Let's talk about Cam and Company a little bit in the NRA news. Dusty and I were down at the Great American Outdoor Show, and we walked around the corner, and there was a production going on, a TV show. I'm like, what is this? And I was unaware of the Cam and Company podcast at that time. And I guess Cam is broadcast on TV and it runs a few different times during the day on other channels and the podcast on iTunes and other directories. And I was hooked. I listened to Cam and Company the whole ride home, and I had a 7-hour ride back from Harrisburg, and I listened to, I think, 2 of Cam's shows, the whole thing. And I was like, this is pretty good, and talked about the same stuff that we were talking about back then. It was awesome.
Yeah, Cam and Company's been with us for quite a while now. They're really their own entity. You know, they call themselves NRA News, but they kind of cover the stuff how they want to cover it. We don't really, what do you want to say, oversee or manage them, but they're definitely on our side and are partnered in with us. But it started out, Cam and Company really started. They were on Sirius Radio. We had on the Patriot Channel, and they did several years on there, and as that kind of went up and down as paid radio went up and down, expanded more into some of the podcast stuff. And then when we had the tragedy at Sandy Hook, the TV show got put together and put it on Sports Channel Live, and the ratings were just huge coming out of that, of people. It was where you went to find out what was going on and really tracking what was happening with our gun rights. And it just really gained a whole another level of momentum. And I think now if I know right, we're on iHeart Radio, and we got the pod stuff going. It's on Sports Channel every night, and everything else he's doing live, streaming on the web. And I don't even know what our listenership is, but it's huge. And I'm like you, I go there a lot to get caught up on what's going on, because Cam is always on the front edge of what happens every day, and he gets some great people on the show, from high-end politicians to some of the individuals that are up against certain issues that happen in their state with people coming after them, or have experienced something where they use the gun to protect themselves. You name it. I mean, he's always there. It's turned out to be a great resource for getting additional messages about the organization out.
Yes, and it's extremely interesting to get caught up on all the headlines of the day that you'd like to know as a gun owner, and the legislation that's coming up, and he does a great job covering it. We did speak with Cam by Facebook, and he's agreed to be on this show at some point. So we're looking forward to that down the road. Yeah,
Cam's he's not many any better than him when it comes to covering what's going on in our industry.
I totally agree. He is on top of it, and he's not only talks about it on the show, but he's constantly updating his own personal Facebook page if you're his friend, and NRA News is always updating it as well. It's just a great show. What would you say we could do with the hunter or the family that's kind of off the grid, that are firearm owners, and they're not really aware that there is a fight going on out there in the legislator aspect or in politics, because they're just not plugged in as much as the rest of the world? And they truly are the people that will say, you can have my gun if you take it from my cold, dead hands. How do you reach out to those people to get them involved and become members? Is there an effort there?
It's been a hard thing for us, and I think we're finally making a little traction. But I think what it comes down to is, when you're seeing what's in the media and what's going on out there, the other side does a great job of selling to hunters and just everyday people, hey, we're not after your everyday hunting rifle. We're not after your grandpa's gun. We're not after that. We're not after that. And it becomes believable. But the only reason any hunter has a gun today and can still hunt with it is because of the 5 million members of the NRA. That's it.
Exactly.
And, you hate to be that forward with it sometimes, but that's what it's about. They don't want to nitpick guns. They want all guns. They don't really care. They might start at one end of it, but if everybody ever saw the legislation that comes through, back in the assault rifle, coming out of that, there was bans coming in. They wanted to go after bore size. And what they started talking about was, we want to go after 50 caliber rifles. Well, just about every shotgun has a bigger bore than a 50 caliber rifle. So if that had went through, yeah, you could have kept your 22 and your 223 maybe, but anything that had a bore the size of a 50 caliber bigger was gone. That's just about every shotgun that any hunter hunts with. So it's a game of that side. And I know a lot of us are just non-political, and a lot of hunters don't like it either. But beyond that side, NRA does a tremendous amount for hunters, and that's our fault to a point that we haven't gotten that message clear. And I think working with guys like yourself, working with all the other groups out there, we're going to do a better job of getting people to, as a hunter, come check out the NRA and see that there is a home here for you. We do have other things beyond the American Hunter Rifle magazine and what we do legislative. We have a lot of programs that and some new stuff we're doing. We're working on a lot of different things that we're working on some new data stuff coming in for hunters, getting the best data about where to hunt, how to hunt, best places to go. We've got, NRA Outdoors now. If you want to if you're looking for a great hunt with a great outfitter in a certain place,
yep.
We got that stuff coming. And honestly, I'd like to hear from hunters. What would you like to see from NRA? Because I'm willing to sit here and say, whatever it is you want to do, I'll do everything I can to produce that for you. In most cases, we probably had it and you just didn't know about it. But, feedback to you guys through the pod, through your Facebook, whatever it may be, feed into the guys at Big Buck and let them know what it is you'd like to see NRA do for hunters more, and we'll do our best to do it.
We will definitely put that out there. And I know Dusty will put it out on Chubby Tines.
Absolutely.
There's that's if you guys need to know what the hunting community wants, we will pose it to our hunting community and we'll get you some answers
Absolutely.
on that.
I mean, that's, sometimes you can sit and guess and do all this stuff all you want, but in the end, let's hear it from as they say, straight from the horse's mouth. And I'm committed. One of the two things I'm most committed to in the next couple of years here with the NRA is reaching out to hunters and getting hunters to join this organization and understand that we're doing more than just your hunting, saving your guns. Even we do stuff for bow hunters on the line. It doesn't matter. And two is women. Women's the fastest growing part of gun ownership and even in some of the hunting and shooting disciplines. And we're going to do a much stronger job we've got some great programs now, but we've got more stuff coming there to show women as well. The NRA is a home for women as well.
And that's awesome. And what would you think about maybe a NRA Outdoors podcast? You have the NRA News, which covers a lot of gun stuff, but would you entertain the idea of doing a podcast just for the NRA Outdoors?
Absolutely. It's probably a pretty good idea as we get that stuff in place and get it put together, is to really start talking to people and have a forum for hunters. And that's some of the stuff we're talking about. One of the other new things we've got coming that we'll introduce here probably in the next 4 to 6 months is how we speak to the public and the members through our web. And when I say that, I mean, if you went into the NRA's website right now and you went into things, it really talks to you through programs and through the organizational chart, as I like to say. And we wanted to speak to members one-on-one. If you're a hunter, you should come into the web page and come through the hunting part and see what we do have hunting. In one place, find everything NRA's got going on for hunters, for women, for military, law enforcement, capable, disabled, challenged, it doesn't matter. So instead of seeing this vast organization and having a hard time figuring out how to get through it, this whole new format is going to speak to people individually and allow themselves to visit us and see what they want to see on a daily basis and not things they're not interested in. And that kind of goes along the lines you're talking about as an NRA Outdoors piece that's really just strictly mainly to hunters and outdoorsmen. That's all they want to hear. I know you're fighting for me. Keep the fight up. I don't really want to hear about it. We can do that.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah, it's a huge organization we could talk for 5 hours and never repeat something probably. I don't even know the number of programs we run, and we have over 600 staff. We have a field rep in place that covers multiple field reps that make sure all 50 states are covered. We've got 15,000 affiliated clubs and business alliances across the country. It just goes on and on and on. It's more of, us doing a better job talking to the everyday people, the everyday gun owner, and understanding that NRA we are the political machine. We're always going to stand and fight and ensure that this culture and this rights we want stays in place. But outside of that, come to the Great American Outdoor Show, come to the NRA annual meetings, find your local NRA club, log onto the web, check out NRA Outdoors, book a hunt through NRA Outdoors if you're going to go on a hunt. Check it out and see what that's about, and you'll learn real fast about just everything else we have to offer. We had one thing we just offered the other day that's completely sold out in like 4 hours, which is a Benelli pheasant hunt with some of the Team Benelli guys.
Wow.
And so you come out and you get to shoot with these guys, but you also get to learn stuff, try new product, and shoot a few birds in the process. Those are some of the things we're doing.
Right.
And one of the neatest things we have is these long-range shooting schools. And what they're about is being a better hunter. It's not about learning to shoot in a long distance. It's about learning how to be a better hunter and taking long shots and taking good ethical shots. So that if you learn how to shoot at 600 and 800 yards shooting at an animal, it makes that 300 or 400 yard shot pretty easy. Right. And that's just something we're trying to offer to a hunter. I mean, anybody who's gone out that lives in the East like we do, and then you go out west and someone says that's only 400 yard shot, and you're like, only 400 yards, you know. I've never seen anything past 100 yards in the East.
Right.
And it's intimidating. So, you know, say a hunter comes to us and wants to go on an elk hunt of a lifetime. We're going to come to you, and what we have in NRA Outdoors right now, and I'm building a new system, is that I tell you, here's all the gear we recommend. And if you don't have that gear, here's some discount places you can go buy it that are connected to NRA Outdoors. You know, here's some of the physical fitness stuff you need to do to get in shape through NRA Freestyle and NRA Fit, which is some new stuff we have coming. And then if you haven't done a lot of long-range shooting, here's a school you can go to, learn how to be a little better long-range shooter, how to shoot in the wind and do these things. And by the time you get on that hunt, make it a hunt of a lifetime. That's some of the stuff we're doing in our outdoors that I hope will be something that hunters would love to have from the NRA.
Oh, yeah.
As a hunter, I'll say absolutely. You know, speaking personally, that's completely unexpected that you're doing that, and that you're doing it. It's awesome.
Well, we want to kind of be that full package, you know, and
right.
As I said early on, people trust NRA. We want to keep that trust, and you know, it's an intimidating deal. Growing up, you guys probably like me, I never hunted out of the county I lived in until I started working for the NRA, you know.
Right.
And that's the way most of our members are, and they save up, and they want to go on a hunt of a lifetime. The thing we want to do is make sure they're with the best outfitters, getting the best bang for their buck and the best experience. And our people know hunting's not killing. Hunting's an experience. We want them to have the best experience that they can and hopefully get lucky and be blessed enough to take an animal. But if not, come out of there just loving the whole experience in the end. And I think that NRA touch to the whole deal will be just a great thing for all of us in the outdoors and for hunters. And we'd love to, we'll work with you guys to really kick that off going into the fall and then especially into the next season at the Great American.
Oh, yeah. That's going to be excellent.
Yeah, that takes your NRA membership to another level. That's another huge thing you got going.
Yeah, you know, that's kind of some of our stuff that we're focusing on my side with the membership stuff is a lot of people see our membership as a magazine subscription.
Right.
I pay anywhere from $25, $35, depending on which you buy, and I get a magazine for 12 months. But because they don't even understand how to take advantage of all these other assets.
Right.
And these are benefits of being a member. We are a member organization, and we do a lot of things for all hunters and all public. But in the end, we want to do more for our members, and we want to say, yeah, you have to be a member to get to this, but that's who we are. We're a membership organization,
right?
And we want to provide these better tools. And one of the things I've just started working on with the industry, and if you ever go to an annual meeting, if you've never been, and you go talk to any vendor there, and they'll tell you when they come to the annual meeting, they almost put everybody in a sales meeting again and re-up on their stuff. Because the NRA people come in, they know their stuff. They know their optics. They know their guns. They're going to ask you questions you've never been asked, and they know. And most of the time, they already know the answer. They want to see if you know it.
Right.
And so, one of the things I work on the industry on a little bit is say, what if we put a good product testing program together through NRA Outdoors for our hunters and our shooters to give you the best unbiased feedback on your product? What a great asset, and be a great asset as a benefit for a member to get to those things. So there's some of the other things we're working on that we're not quite there yet, but we'll have in place hopefully in the next year or so.
Right.
And that comes back to the trust too. Being able to trust the shooters and the testers. It's all comes together with that.
Yeah, and get discounts for NRA members. There again, not only do members trust us, industry trusts us. So.
Right.
Allow us to offer discounts to our only members only product purchasing programs, and we already have that within our outdoors with a lot of vendors that's already in place that we're bringing in house. That, for example, if you were going on a certain whether it's a moose hunt or a goat hunt or something with a lot of climbing, our guys have already tested all kinds of boots, and we don't have a sponsorship. We just say this was the best boot, and if you want to buy it, here's how you can buy it, and we pass the discount the vendors give us right onto that member when he's buying that boot to have the best thing he can on the hunt. Those are things we've already got in place that we're going to expand. So hopefully those are the things we can do for hunters and that bring them more and see NRA as a great place to be a member of.
Absolutely.
Completely agree. Couple of closing questions here for you, Kyle, before we let you go. How's the deer hunting in Virginia?
We got more deer than we know what to do with. I'll tell you how it is in my county here in Loudoun County. I live in Loudoun County, Virginia. Is archery season opens on September 1 and closes on March 31st.
Wow.
That's a lot of deer.
We still have a deer problem.
Yeah.
So there's pockets around here. The number of whitetail is just tremendous. And we're actually in some of these more suburban areas having issues to figure out how we're going to control it all. But when you get out into the mountains of Virginia and down in the swamps and stuff, you can kill some big deer in Virginia.
Yeah, I've done some hunting in and around Williamsburg, and I'm just completely blown away by the numbers of deer that I see. It's just not.
And we have a tremendous number of hunters in the state. We're lucky to have a state that has what it has. We have the coast and the beach. You come in and you have a little more of the flat lands and peanut farms and things like that. Then you kind of start getting into central Virginia and wooded areas, and as you get into the west, you got decently hilly areas in the Appalachians and stuff like that. So you got a whole different big pieces of culture. I don't know if you've seen the stuff Rocky Mountain elk's done, but we also, the elk are taking off down in southwest Virginia.
Yes,
now,
I've
so
heard that.
Elk hunting back
yes.
Again. And it's a pretty good state. The only thing we really don't have a tremendous amount of is upland hunting. We lost a lot of the quail and things like that. But outside of that, it's a pretty good state to hunt in.
Absolutely.
And people are. I grew up as a kid. Everybody hunted with dogs real heavy. And that was just the culture.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them still do it. And it's fun and all that. But a lot more people, as lands are getting more private, and it's harder to do, and you get a little more still hunting and some of that coming back. I think we're also seeing the quality of the deer increase a little more too. And, that kind of goes hand in hand with that kind of stuff, because the deer, not because the number of deer shot, we can shoot all the deer we want, but because the deer aren't running around as much and hard and stuff. But dog hunting is still popular, but without as much of it, it definitely helps, I think, build a little quality deer a little more. Like I say, I go home with my cousins. If we go deer hunting, we're running them with dogs. That's what we do.
Yep, and I've done that. And when I hunted Virginia, we actually ran dogs, and it was a totally different experience than anything I'd ever had before. But I got to say, it wasn't any more successful than the hunts in Virginia we were on when we didn't have dogs. So
yeah, it's just a different approach. And
it's just a different approach.
It's definitely very family oriented. For me, that's why even today I have a hard time sitting in a tree stand for so long, because I always loved being the guy that went with the dogs and ran them, and I just enjoyed that part of it. And it's just more of a different style. It's just fun. It's just a different way of doing it. And you all kind of meet together, make a drive, come back together, and have a drink of water and eat a snack and make another drive. And we were poor people. We didn't have all these satellite collars and all that stuff that they have nowadays. You did little small pieces of it together. And like you said, I don't know that we didn't kill any more deer than I see anywhere else. It was just a different style that, we support it.
Right. And I think that's one of those misconceptions. If you've never run dogs before, it's no more successful than not running dogs or doing a drive with a group of your buddies, a human drive instead of a deer drive with dogs. It's just a different thing. It's just a different style.
It is. And there's a lot of controversy out there on it, and the NRA, we kind of get drawn in and out of it quite a bit, but, we support all legal hunting and ethical hunting. That's what it's all about. Yep. And that's that culture and that lifestyle we like to support. And it's different in every state, and these cultures and these generational things we pass down. That's what makes the outdoors and everything so great.
Very cool. Interesting. I've never experienced a whitetail hunt with dogs. That's kind of sparked my interest a little bit.
Well, I tell you go home with me and you'll be amazed. My cousins, they're as redneck as they get, and you never know what's going to be running. You might have a lab out there, you might have a half Doberman Pinscher German Shepherd, and you might have a little Chihuahua Feist.
Yes,
really.
But in the end, anything will run a deer if you put it out there.
Yeah, right.
It could be a reality TV show probably.
Yeah, I'm interested in this, Jay. I'm going to touch a little bit more. So you just haul them out. We're getting Kyle Weaver side of whitetail hunting in Virginia with dogs.
I think that was an invitation. I do believe.
I think it was, absolutely. But it sparks my interest. Pretty much you just haul them out no different than the other dogs. You got a truck box and go to the woods and dump the dogs out and just pretty much take off like you're going on a coon hunt, but for whitetail. Is that the way I'm seeing it?
Yeah, I mean,
that's it.
Usually 2 or 3. This is the way we did it. Was it was always us young kids we went with the dogs, and you would position your people on the other ends, and everybody knew where they were on the stands of a lot of woods or part of it. You would section off and try to push a certain way, and over time you learn what the deer do, and you try not to hunt the same areas over and over and over. We had lucky enough lands to hunt and move around, a lot of public land to hunt, and you get the dogs with you, and you kind of yip them through, and eventually a deer jumps, and off they go together, and eventually those deer usually will pass as we spread guys out. We were only shotgun hunting.
Right.
That's all we allowed in the county I grew up in, and the deer come by, they come by you about 45 miles an hour. You better be a good shot. And if you get lucky, you get one. And if you don't, once it's over, you kind of meet, maybe it was a half mile, maybe it was a mile hike through, whatever, usually not that far, usually more than a half mile, and you gather back up, you pick a new push, and you do it again.
Mm-hmm.
And,
really? Are they barking like rabbit dogs?
Oh, yeah, just like a rabbit dog run.
Really?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm getting jazzed up about this.
And I'm telling you, I've seen all kinds of things run a deer. My grandpa used to always say, anything will run a deer. We were rabbit hunters, so he would always, he wasn't a big deer hunter. We grew up raising rabbit dogs. He would say, it takes a real dog, because he was a beagle guy. It takes a real dog to run a rabbit. You can teach anything to run a deer was kind of his saying.
Really? That's awesome. I can hear the excitement in your voice. We like to hear that.
Yeah.
It was fun. I mean, that's what we did on Saturday. My cousins and all of us got together, and if, maybe one Saturday we rabbit hunted, and another one we made deer hunt. When we grew up, rabbit season came in, and I think, early October, all of October we rabbit hunting real hard into that mid-November, and then once deer season came in, rabbit hunting was really hard because there were so many people running dogs deer hunting.
Yep.
So you jump in and deer hunt, and when deer season's over, you jump back in rabbit hunting in the deer, and that's the way I grew up doing it.
It was quite a rush.
It sounds like an awesome rush. It's almost like you can have a rabbit dog, but train to run deer also.
Yep.
That was always, any old rabbit hunter should tell you, that was a hard part, is teaching your rabbit dogs to run only rabbits, not deer.
Right.
And we did some field trial and stuff, and when you got good ones, they would only run a rabbit. Deer could jump up in front of them, and they'd watch him run off. They'd only run that rabbit, and that was, you knew you had something special then. Yeah,
I've been behind some field trial rabbit dogs and stuff. Man, it's phenomenal what they don't break free for. They see a deer or anything, and they keep focused on the rabbits. But Jay, I think that's awesome podcast to have Kyle's cousin on for talking about white dogs with dogs,
hunting deer with dogs.
Hopefully, all your listeners that time are below the Mason-Dixon line. Otherwise, they'll never understand a word he says.
Yeah, that's true. All right, though.
Right. Well, when I did it, we had a group of about 4 or 5 beagles, and they were very, very small dogs. You can hear them yipping coming through the forest, and they'd have these little bells, so you could hear the bell, you knew the dogs were close, so you better get ready.
Really?
And it was shotgun only, and I always, for whatever reason, the smallest dog, her name was Peanut, and she would always come out last, and for whatever reason, Peanut and I had this bond, and she'd always show up where I was standing, and never actually had a shot at a deer on any of the drives.
Yeah, it's not easy. I mean, we've all seen what deer can do. You get a deer, doe, buck, doesn't matter, coming by you wide open, running, jumping, moving. It's I was always taught, put it on the very tip of his nose and pull the trigger.
Right.
And that was about the lead you had to take.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works and sometimes it didn't.
I may need to take up some training that you guys offer to get the jump on them.
Yeah, we'd have to have a whole new class on how to do that probably. But like you say, everybody thinks it's this negative slaughtering of deer. It's a whole lot harder to hit them running like that when they're walking up real close to you under a tree stand, and it's challenging, and it's fun in its own.
It is.
And the theory I was taught, whether it's wrong or right, just what I was taught, is that the small dogs don't run as hard, they don't push the deer as hard. You get the big walkers, and they can run them, but they also run them, and they come by you, they're going a whole lot faster.
That's right.
And it's a whole different style of hunting, the things you learn, and I sometimes I enjoy going back, and I'll go out with them and not even take a gun. I'll just drive. I just enjoy that and watching everybody else do it.
Yeah, it is.
It sounds like a blast.
It is a blast, Dusty. You have to try it sometime.
I'm all in. I really.
Yeah, we'll do it one of these days.
Cool.
I'm in, Kyle. I'm gonna take you up on it. Maybe we get Jay come down with us, and we're gonna do this because it sounds like it's a party in its own.
It is.
It kind of ends up not really being about the hunting. The process itself is just fun.
Yeah, it's a different process.
I really want to record the stories after these herd of deer ran by 45 miles an hour and what happened.
It's the same old thing. When you miss, they cut your shirt tail off and all that stuff. It all still happens.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's a great story in its own.
Kyle, where does the NRA stand on the Bundy Ranch?
We really haven't had a stance on it. But I think it speaks volumes of when people want to know where are people in this country right now and what's going on. And people are a little bit fed up, I think that's what it shows more than anything. And this is just one of those situations where a group of people got together and said, we've had enough. We don't agree with what's going on. and we really haven't, taken a position on it. And it's not, it's not really something that's going after we're a single issue organization of Second Amendment rights. Right. But, the rights that we're fighting for are what's going to help all of our freedoms stay in place.
Absolutely. All right. So if people are listening to this show, how do they get a hold of somebody at the NRA to renew their membership or get a new membership?
Well, the easiest way to do it for most people nowadays is just go to www.nra.org and you can join right there. Or if not there, you can walk into just about any local gun store, and we have over 10,000, I believe, NRA recruiters. More than that, I think it's 30,000 NRA recruiters in the country. You can walk in just about any gun store and say, I want to join the NRA, and they'll hand you an application. You can join right there on the spot.
That's cool. So there's NRA.org, which is a membership division of the NRA. What is NRA-ILA? What's that all about?
NRA-ILA stands for National Life Association Institute for Legislative Action. Mm-hmm. And that was an entity we started back, when we got heavy into these politics and having to fight. We started this separate entity of a legislative lobbying arm. They went in and fought for rights. And it's a part of the NRA, but that's really the part that Chris Cox runs, and they run on a federal level, a state level, and a local level of everything we're talking about. Every kind of gun right, every kind of hunting bill, every kind of access, right to hunt, all that stuff, up to, putting out our endorsements and telling you who's voting, how they vote on gun rights, in the Senate and Congress, state level, local level, doesn't matter. And it's, it's kind of because of how the last 20 plus years have been, it's been a huge focus that people see of NRA. And we continue to be the most powerful lobbying group in the country. But that has nothing to do with Chris or any of his staff or any of that. That has to do with the members and the people.
Right.
We have 5 million members. With the last poll we took of people exiting from voting, over 40 million people claim to be members of the NRA. That's where the power is, because what it tells you is that right. 40 million people voted a certain way. That's some power. That's some big
power.
And that's what the power's in the people, and that's
Absolutely.
What it's all about.
And
we're
just that's what it's about to be.
The one in front of it.
That's American. That's what it's all about.
It is.
NRA News, that's Cam and Company, and news about all things guns and the NRA, I would assume. What's the NRA Life of Duty?
NRA Life of Duty is a brainchild, really, of Wayne LaPierre's. Wayne is my hero. I tell you, the things he's done for the NRA and for this country is amazing. He's given himself to it. But in all his travels and everywhere he goes, the one thing he kept coming back with is, we need to do more for military, for law enforcement, and our first responders, especially coming out of 9/11 and all that. And we finally came up with this idea of a Life of Duty membership. And what it is, it's a membership directly designed. All the content from the Warrior magazine and all the Life of Duty online stuff is directed at the military and the law enforcement and our first responders. Mm-hmm. And it's done pretty well. It's got, we've got it out there. There's a lot of great stuff on, if you go on the lifeofduty.tv and check out the stuff there. But we're getting ready to revamp it, turn it into a little bit of a different type of membership where it has a little better content, and make it a little more like a normal membership for people, not a separated piece, and just kind of improve and enhance that situation. And, we got all these great heroes out here fighting for our country every day. And in my mind, they're very underappreciated, and NRA wants to be a home for them as well. A lot of, it just drives me crazy when you see people just not even acknowledge what these great warriors and heroes do for us, right. and almost turn their back to them. And that's the other part of it. It's meant to be, NRA wants to be a home that they can come to.
Right. Right. I mean, you talk about the NRA fighting for gun rights. You've got the people who are coming back from overseas fighting for our entire way of life, which includes gun rights. But without them, none of this exists.
Exactly. I mean, the old saying, freedom ain't free, is live every day. You fight for it every day.
Absolutely.
There's always someone trying to take it. Yep. And, people, it's in NRA, I think, has always been a leading organization when it comes to military and all that. And just, today's culture is just so different that a lot of people don't even agree or dislike someone who serves in the military. And, it's sad. And we want to continue to hopefully be a home for these people.
That's great. NRA Women, we talked about that a little bit, opening up the largest growing division of the NRA was NRA Women, I believe you said?
It is, yeah. If out there on some of that same stuff, we have the NRA Women's leadership form out there. And actually, Wayne and I met the other day and talked about this. There's some new stuff we're doing. We're developing a lot of training aspects that are specifically more developed toward women. You train women a little bit different. They carry a gun a little bit different. They're in a little bit different situations sometimes than men. Mm-hmm. So there's a little tweaking to that training to make it specific for them. Beyond that, women getting involved in hunting. We already have some women on target program is what we have. They're again tweaked to just that little difference sometimes where women want to be trained or need training in a little additional training in a different way just based on because they're a woman. A lot of times it comes down to how they carry. Women usually carry guns totally different than the way men do.
It's a very good point, yeah.
And so it's just tweaked to be that. Some women want to be trained by a woman and some women want to be trained by a man. So we have all those aspects in there, and we're going to continue to do more just to show all these. And we have another program that, again, another one most people don't know about. It's called the Women's Wilderness Escape, and we run it out of Raton, New Mexico, at the NRA Whittington Center, which is our arm out there of I think it's about 25,000 acres, the greatest shooting facility in the country.
Wow!
And we run this wilderness. We call it WWE, not wrestling, but that's what the initials are.
Right.
And it's a 7-day deal where women get to experience everything you could think of in the outdoors. They get to shoot every type of gun. They get to learn camping, anything to do with outfitting, hiking, survival, you name it. And it's just a great program we're going to look to expand. So it's kind of like we were talking about the hunters. It's a very tweaked thing for the women to get involved.
Very cool. And the last thing I wanted to just cover real quick was the King of Freedom. What's that about?
Ring of Freedom is we have an arm of the NRA called the Office of Advancement. And we're lucky enough to have a lot of people like Larry Potterfields and in the industry with Smith & Wesson. I don't want to leave people out. Ruger on down the line, the Brownells, Midway USA, all these different, Joe Gregory. There's some names you'll see. These people have all kicked off what we call the Ring of Freedom. And what that is it's the highest end of Ring of Freedom is $1 million cash to the organization. Bill Ruger was actually one of the first to ever give us $1 million cash personally.
Oh, wow.
And they get a gold jacket, and we're giving out a bunch of gold jackets in Indy again this year.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, there's different levels, and it goes all the way down to $1,000 a year to the NRA. So it's just a special donor recognition of Ring of Freedom that people that just go that extra mile to support the organization. And we do a lot of special events to bring them together to help further, culturally, philanthropically do things they get involved into different of our committees and that kind of thing. And it's really, in the last 5 or 6 years here, grown to be a pretty big deal. And, it's kind of that competitive thing. You put it out there and people will do it. I believe last year we gave out 8 or 9 gold jackets, and I think they're giving out that many again this year with a total of 15 or more individuals with gold jackets now. And some of them, like Larry Potterfield with Midway USA, is in the multi-millions of money given now. And it's a neat thing that we never had that we generated that's really starting to take off.
That's a good place it's a very good thing to have, to recognize those that are donating large sums of money to the cause.
And most of them get into it because they come from like a lot of us. They were lucky enough to earn that money and do that.
Yep.
They want to give back, to the everyday, to the kids, to all the programs. They want to ensure these things are there forever for all of us to take part in. And they all have their niche of something they're really interested in, and that's what they give their money toward furthering.
Yep. And if I had the money, I'd do the same thing. Absolutely. Anything else you'd like to cover, Kyle?
No, that's the bulk of what's going on now. 6
Beautiful.
months from now, we can hit it again and probably have a whole different group of stuff.
That's a good point. Yes. All kinds of new stuff coming up. And it sounds like you guys are constantly evolving and changing and growing new programs and things like that to cover different aspects.
Yeah. In 6 months now, we're going to have all these elections, and it's going to be interesting to see how the environment changes, and hopefully we gain some things back that allow us a little more breathing room. But the battle's never going to go away, of course, anytime soon.
Yep. Right. Well, cool. Kyle, we appreciate you joining us on the show, and we'd love to see you again down at the Great American Outdoor Show. I'm assuming the planning starts for that pretty soon. And
yep, we've got everything going and set up, and again, we're already working on it, selling booths and all that kind of stuff.
Excellent.
And I believe the dates this year are in 2015. If I remember right, I believe it's February 7th through February 15th.
Excellent. Well, we'll see you in the media room for sure.
That's right.
Down there. And
absolutely.
Maybe before then, if there's time, maybe we can hook up for a little deer hunt, dog push type hunt down there in Virginia.
Absolutely. Well, I know you guys have my cards because you look at them every day, I hear. And,
right here.
You can always get in touch with me. And, Jay, Dustin, I appreciate the time you guys are giving us in this forum to get out and help us. The number one initiative I have for the next couple of years here is how we can get in touch with hunters and make a connection and get them better involved in what we do and hopefully provide a better service for them. So, I'm very thankful and appreciative of the opportunity to reach out.
Well, that's fantastic. We're here for you guys. So if you need anything, you need us to reach out to any of our community, we're here for you.
Thanks, guys. Truly appreciate it.
Dusty, I think I am completely knowledged out about the NRA.
Absolutely on the knowledged out. But then again, I'm completely confident with my membership with the NRA and what I've got going with them being a member. I'm 100% for the NRA and what they got going on.
This card that I'm holding right now with the envelope that I received not long after attending the Great American Outdoor Show, but where you lent me the $20 to renew my membership, by the way. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, NRA membership, I'll lend anybody $20 to take care of that.
You might want to be a little careful about what you say on the podcast because you might actually have to pay for some memberships.
Whatever. It's if I'm standing there and we're both renewing and you need to borrow $20 for your membership.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Right. And that's exactly right. So I got my envelope in the mail, and that envelope and that card that's in that envelope stands for so much more than just gun rights.
Absolutely. We heard it, as Kyle would say, directly from the horse's mouth.
Right.
And that's why we had Kyle on the show and look for Kyle to be on the Big Buck Registry, Big Buck podcast more often to discuss what the NRA has going on. And we want you as our listeners, followers, and friends to know what the NRA's got going on. And, it's going to encourage you to get a membership if you don't already. And, as a hunter, the NRA plays a big role in you being able to be out there in the woods.
Yep. Our Kyle Weaver, Rifle Kyle Weaver, was most informative, and we are so glad that he is our friend and part of our community, and that they are focused on the hunter more so than they ever have been before.
Yeah, for sure. And Kyle, props to you for what you got going on for the hunters and the shooters out there. And that's the kind of people that's behind the NRA, and that's awesome.
Yep. So if you're listening to the show, you can, and you're anywhere near Indianapolis, you can get down to the NRA if you're a member or a non-member. If you want to go down and get a membership, they got a great show going on down in Indy. April 25th through the 27th. So if you're listening to the show, you want to go down there, you didn't know about it, go check it out. It's going to be one heck of a good time. And, definitely, if you haven't been to the Great American Outdoor Show before down in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, that's the pinnacle, man, in my eyes. That's the best.
That was a well organized, well put together, professionally, family oriented outdoor show that I've ever been to.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. I was so impressed. It was so classy. So many people walk around. It's really hard to keep something that big with that many people as classy as they did, and they pulled it off with only 15 members.
That's amazing. That tells you that they got an awesome staff at the NRA.
Yeah, they have it figured out, and they have it down to a science. So, man, oh man, that was just great. I just really thank you again to Kyle Weaver for joining us on the Big Buck Registry and explaining all the things for, dating back to the history of when the NRA was formed, to when the antis showed up in 1968, to everything that in every program that's going on at the NRA right now. We're so honored to have you on the show, and hopefully he'll join us again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Kyle, and we look forward to talking with you again about what the NRA's got going on. It's an awesome organization, and definitely if you're not a member, check them out, get a membership, and enjoy it.
Yep. And here's that special 800 number, 1-800-672-3888. And you can call there and sign up for membership or visit their website, www.nra.org. Dusty, I think that's a wrap, man.
Awesome. Check the NRA out. I hope you enjoyed the show. And if you want to hook up with me at Chubby Tines Outdoors, go to facebook.com/Chubby Tines Outdoors and submit a photo, sheds, harvest, what you got going on. We'd like to talk with you. Jay, how can I get with you at the Big Buck Registry?
Well, I'd like to have you join me on iTunes. If you're an Apple user, go over to iTunes and download the podcast. Big Buck, just type in Big Buck in the search bar, and then you can go and simply listen to all the shows we've ever done. And if you wouldn't mind, just give us a review and give us a 5-star right there. We'd love to hear what you have to say about the show. And I guess you can give us a 4-star if you had to, but we like those 5 stars. If you'd like to shoot me an email, send me an email to j@bigbuckregistry.com. Give us a call or send us a text of a big buck that you shot, and we'll get it posted on our Facebook page, 724-613-2825. And you can also submit a buck on Facebook. Simply go to bigbuckregistry.com/Facebook or Twitter, bigbuckregistry.com/Twitter. I think that's everything. Did I cover it all?
I think so. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, man. Good deal. I'm Jay Scott.
And I'm Dusty Phillips.
And this is the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast. See you next week.
Can't wait.